Welcome back. Now, Blazing a Trail is a memoir filled with lessons for African leadership. Author Lincoln Marley shares his journey addressing issues of integrity, women empowerment and staff engagement. The activist turned banker reflects on his family, friends and colleagues, highlighting leadership techniques to mentor and inspire young leaders. For more on this, we are joined by author and Lesaka Technology CEO Lincoln Marley, who joins us now to unpack his memoir. Mr. Marley, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me. It's such an honor to be here.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Mr. Marley, I want us to take it way back. Yes. When you were jailed as an activist in the 80s, I believe. Yes. How did that experience shape your life?
I think that we were a group of angry young people at the time. We want to bring the apartheid system, down. We wanted to make the country ungovernable. But there was something bigger, but we couldn't see it at the time. We needed people who were older, wiser, who could guide us and give us a sense that there was something beyond just a fight against apartheid. And my father's intervention was to tell me that the biggest weapon I could have against apartheid is education, the right values, the right principles, and make sure that I myself, I'm the embodiment of what I want for the future. So those dark times were important lessons about resilience, but the guidance from those who were older made me to see the light beyond the confines of a prison or the running around from the police or trying to leave the country, or any of the skirmishes we had with the police or the army.
It must have been a really dark time, but I mean, all of those experiences have led to now today, and many other experiences thereafter, you penning this book, Blazing a Trail, Lessons for African Leadership. And as you mentioned, there were principles that your father had given you, which is sort of the landscape of what this book is based on. Just further expand beyond the education. What are some of those principles that your father gave you in you being able to take them throughout life and share them as lessons to other people?
Yes, these are important lessons for me. They live with me every day. The first one is treat everybody with respect and dignity, regardless of where they come from, status, age, religion, race, doesn't matter. The second one is humility. Just always be humble and be appreciative. A strong sense of selflessness in what you do, and always think about the next person and giving to community. Serving, because my father always believed, and I believe too, that if serving is beneath you, then leading is beyond you, right? And I think the other one is about performance. Setting yourself high goals and high standards, and work so hard to achieve them, and then go for the next standard. So those are some of the principles that have guided me in my life.
And I mean, very important principles on that. I mean, you're talking about serving, and you've served on many boards over your lifetime. You've served on Stanbic, Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe. You've also served on the board of Age Loan, and you're currently the chairman of the Diners Club. How would you describe yourself as a leader?
It's always difficult. I think what in the book comes out is what other people see me, how other people see me, how they've experienced me, how they experience my leadership. The only three things I might share, what they've shared, is how I've grown other leaders. Because I have a strong belief that you can't call yourself a leader if you're not growing other leaders.
Right.
The second one is a passion for women development, and women empowerment is very important in a leader. The third one is investing in young people and giving young people an opportunity. The other one is about, breaking the tide and not following the path that everybody's going, and go where you think is the right thing. So there are many times in my life where I've gone right, where everybody goes left, because it's the right thing to do. So when I talk about blazing a trail, I'm inspired by this word that says, do not go where the path may lead, but go instead where there's no path, and, create a new path, and create a trail. And that's what I wanted to do in my life. And the last one is be kind as a leader. We're brought up with the right values and principles. But when we become leaders or we're given a title, we become these monsters who destroy others, who make other people's lives miserable. And I didn't want to be that kind of leader.
Speaking about going a different direction, going against the tide, quite often if a lot of people, especially leaders who find themselves within that predicament, would stop and ask themselves, for someone who's been through that, in hindsight, how do you know? How do you know that you're doing the right thing? How do you know that going against the tide is the way to go and moving beyond the doubt that you're entrenched in at that time?
When we tell the stories, it sounds as if we had everything figured out.
Yes.
We didn't have everything figured out. I didn't have everything figured out. But every time I found myself at a crossroads, I knew, because of my internal compass, how I was brought up, the values which I subscribed to, what was the right path. And I chose that path. It was lonely. It's been difficult. It's been painful. It cost me a lot of things. Cost me friends, cost me promotions, but it's fine. I have to account to myself. I have to count to my circle of advisors, which are the people that are strongly in my environment. And I always advise people have that circle of advisors. In my life, my wife is the unelected chairman of that circle of advisors. These are the people who can tell you what's what. You may not like it, but they will tell you that. So I think that for everybody, once you get to that, you will know what's the right thing to do. You have to have the courage of your convictions to stay the course no matter how difficult it is. Because the question you have to ask, if you go the other direction, at what cost? At what expense? What price are you prepared to pay to destroy your reputation, to destroy your family name, to soil the reputation of your company? Is it worth it? I think not.
Most certainly. In your book, one of the main elements and pillars is the focus on women leadership. How important is it for you to be able to groom young female leaders? And what's your take in terms of the caliber, the group of women that we currently have in the country who are leading in the many different sectors, be it in government or in business?
I was brought up by very strong women. I'm married to a very strong woman. I am raising two brilliant young women. And I'm influenced by so many women in my life. And I see the value, the capability, the successes and experiences of women. When people don't see women, they should look at their lens. It's their lens that's clouded. It's not as if there are no women. It's not as if the women are not ready. It's the lens through which we're looking at women. If you don't believe women are as capable or better than men, you will find all the excuses. But if you believe, you will give women the opportunities. You will give women the big projects. You will give women the promotions. And in my life, I've not been disappointed in that. There are amazing women in all spheres of life who are doing amazing things. Some hidden from the spotlight in small villages across this country and across this continent, in NGOs across this continent, in big business, in political circles. The question is, those of us who are not making that possible, we should be examining what is stopping us from doing so. The last thing I'll say as well, we should go beyond lip service. When we're saying in the workplace we're supporting women, we shouldn't be talking about that in August. It's more fashionable. It's a day-to-day thing. Where are you when your colleagues are going through a divorce? Where are you when your colleagues are in an abusive relationship? Where are you when your colleagues are having postnatal depression? Where are you when your colleagues want to have children but cannot have children? These are the real things people are fighting through every day. Supporting people through that is what will help you. And learn from women. I have learned so much from the incredible women I've worked with. They've taught me a lot. They've reprimanded me a lot. Wherever I've gone astray, they've put me right. And when I see many of them occupying amazing roles, not only in South Africa, but throughout the continent, all I can have is to have pride that I've journeyed with these lionesses of Africa.
That are certainly taking us a lot more forward. Earlier in our conversation, Mr. Mali, you mentioned that as a young man who was an activist, you really needed the guidance of the much more older and wiser people who would give you sort of ways in terms of how you should go about your activism. How do you believe the young people of today need to be guided in them becoming great leaders of tomorrow?
This is so important. What was different was the way they engaged me. They did not condescend. They didn't talk down to me. They didn't discredit my ideas. They engaged me, showed me a different path, but listened to some aspects of what I had to say. My father said, I want you to go to Harvard. I was like, dude, we want guns, we want the stones, we want to
you
fight.
Want to be militant.
But he showed us a different path. And through that engagement, I became convinced. I also remember when we were close to liberation, the older people made a decision to suspend armed struggle. We were very angry. We were very upset. And I was asked to go and speak at the University of Fort Hare to go and explain this decision. A decision I didn't agree with. But I had to go and read. I had to go and understand why did they want us to have a negotiated settlement. Because they were saying that most wars and most conflicts end up at the negotiation table. So they were saying, let's go fight and win at the negotiation table. Some others would say, why didn't we make more progress? We should look more at ourselves. What did we do with that platform of democracy? Rather than say there should not have been a negotiation. So in my journey, in my life, I spend a lot with young leaders. Try and persuade them, they also persuade me. I learn from them, they learn from me. We must have that kind of dialogue. And there are amazing things that they teach us. My own children teach me a lot of things that I was not exposed to.
Right.
And that's what I think we as older people should do. Engage young people with a sense of respect of their views and their ideas so that we can also share ours.
Lastly, Mr. Mali, in one sentence, what do you want to achieve with this book? If someone has finished the book and has put it down, what would you want to have achieved with that?
Is to ask people to lead in their sphere of influence, in their environment. Let's not look at only the big things of what's going to happen in the change politically in the country. What's happening in your school? What's happening in your family? What's happening among your friends? What's happening in your community? What are we doing to change our country and our fortunes? Succeed in your workplace, succeed in your environment of prayer, succeed in your marriage, succeed in your academics. If we do that collectively, we can make a big dent. Don't do what others have done. Blaze your own trail into making a difference. Let's be midwives to Africa's rebirth.
That's absolutely amazing. Mr. Mali, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
For having me.
We wish you all the best with the book, and we hope that it's flying off the shelves.
Thank you so much. Cheers.
And that was author and Lesaka Technologies CEO, Mr. Lincoln Mali, talking to us about his book. They're blazing a trail, Lessons for African Leadership, and asking all of us to become leaders in all our spaces.